Hello! Last week we worked with single table queries. In this video we will take a look at working with multiple tables. This video is broken up into two parts due to the length of the video. Once again, the examples in this video will be taken from the Alexa Mara database, and you are encouraged to try the code in your MySQL mini server while watching the video. When working with multiple table queries, you are retrieving data from more than one table. You do this by connecting or joining the tables that have common keys, the primary foreign key relationships. When a query is referencing more than one table at a time, there is a chance that the two tables might have the exact same column names. When this is the case, you will need to qualify the column names by putting the table names followed by a period before the column name that needs to be qualified. There are several ways to join tables. We will talk about 4 ways in this class: using a simple join, using a subquery through the use of the in and exist operators, and using explicit joins to specify the type of table join. Most of the examples in your textbook are simple joins. It becomes a preference for which type of join you like most. Let's take a look at the basic steps for constructing a detailed multiple table query when using a simple join method. First, you will need to list all of the columns you want to display in the select clause. Next, you will qualify any needed column names. Then you will list all tables in the from clause. So far, this is the same process as you learned last week for single table queries. The next step is new and is highlighted in purple. You have to take each pair of related tables and connect them in the where clause. This will make more sense in a moment when we complete an example. Finally, we include any additional criteria or conditions by using the AND operator. Let's take a closer look at the syntax for joining two tables with a simple join method and complete an example. The syntax, as just mentioned, is as you see here. Notice the new purple highlight to indicate the joining of tables as the first thing in the where clause. Let's look at our question. For every boat, list the marina number, the slip number, boat name, owner number, owner's first name, and owner's last name. Just like with simple table queries, I've highlighted in yellow column names that need to be listed in the select clause. I did not highlight anything in orange because I can't tell yet which tables I need. Since there is no criteria needed, I don't have green highlights. To help me determine which columns to list in the select clause, which tables to list in the from clause, and which tables to connect in the where clause, I like to construct all of the information I need in a colored grid system like you see here. The first column I highlighted in yellow and include all of the column names needed for the select statement. I would include my criteria in the same column and highlight it in green. The second column I highlight in orange and write out the table that corresponds to each column name I listed. The third and final column I include is the primary key foreign key column, which will assist me in determining the join needed. After I have all of the information I need in my grid, I highlight in purple the row or rows that correspond to the join I need to make in the where clause. Now I'm ready to construct my query. My color-coded grid will assist me with which columns need to be listed in the select clause, which tables to list in the from clause, which tables to connect in the where clause, and knowing which column names to qualify. I can see that I need to list marina number, slip number, boat name, order num, first name, last name in the select clause. I know I need to qualify owner num in the select clause because it is included in two tables and I need to say which table I'm going to reference. For simple queries, it does not matter which table you use for qualifying because the results will be the same. In this case, I will put owner.ownerNum in place of ownerNum to indicate I have qualified the column. If I don't do this, I will get an error message returned from the mini server that says ambiguous column. I need to list the marina number and owner. I need to list the marina slip and the owner in the from clause. I do not need to include marina because it's only listed once and the column name is represented in another table. The tables I need to connect in my where clause are the ones that I have listed in the from statement and are highlighted in purple. To construct the two tables, I set the two tables equal to each other based on their primary key foreign key relationship. Now let's look at an example with more than two tables. The syntax is the same as in the previous example with two tables. Let's look at our question. The question is almost the same as in the previous example. We have just added the marina name to our list of column names to display in our results. Once again, I am using the color-coded grid to assist me in constructing my query. It's the same column names as in the previous example with the addition of the name column. That makes the marina table now needed since the name is only in the marina table. That means I have two sets of connections to build in the where clause as you see here in my query. I am now going to show you an example of a simple join with multiple tables and multiple conditions. Once again, the syntax is the same as in the previous example with two tables. Let's look at our question. For every service request for routine engine maintenance, list the slip ID, marina number, slip number, estimated hours, spent hours, owner number, and owner's last name. After seeing the question, pause the video and see if you can make the color-coded grid to determine the proper items to include in the select statement, the from clause, and the where clause. Pause the video and come up with the color tabled grid now. Does your grid match this one? Now write the query. Pause the video and see if you can construct the query on your own. Does your query look like mine? Let's move on to subqueries. Subqueries for multiple table queries are the exact same as they were last week in Chapter 4 for single table queries. It's the same concept. You have two or more questions you must answer, and you put the first select statement or the information that must be answered first in the innermost query. The outermost query is then executed and returns your desired results. As with the examples in your book with subqueries, you can nest as many as you would like. Let's look at an example. You could use the grid system I introduced earlier if you would like. It helps when there are multiple tables. I am not going to use the grid system here. Our query after reading the question is as you see here. A subquery was used because you have to find the owner numbers for all of those with a 40-foot slip before you can list the first and last name. Let's look at another way to use subqueries by using an operator called exists. The difference between the in operator and the exist operator is that you use the keyword exists in place of the column name and the in operator in the outermost query. In the innermost query, you have to join the tables together in the where clause, just like you do with simple joins. Because both in and exist approaches achieve the same results, the choice is a matter of personal preference. So see the difference between the in and exist methods through this example. The question is pretty straightforward. Let's look at the query. So in the query, you see that in the where clause you now have the exist keyword, and in the innermost query you have a table join to join the two tables together. So next we're going to look at aliases. Use aliases to keep from writing out table names over and over again in a query. When tables are listed in the from clause, you can give each table an alias, that is, an alternative name that you can use in the rest of the statements. To create an alias, type the name of the table, press the space bar, and then type the name of the alias. This is done in the from clause. Simplicity is one reason to use an alias. It can simplify the construction of lengthy MySQL statements. Let's look at an example. The questions are the same as we've seen before. And now I use my alias. Notice the use of the alias in the select and where statements. The alias is assigned in the from clause. I have MS after Marina Slip and O after owner. That means I am temporarily naming the Marina Slip tables in MS and the owner table O. Let's look at the joining a table to itself. A self-join joins a table to itself. Self-joins are useful for tables with a self-referencing relationship or when one wants to determine data inconsistencies. For self-joins, you use an alias to treat the tables as two separate tables, that is, giving the same table two different names. Let's look at an example. Notice the joining of the two tables in the where clause and the comparison of the two tables for the criteria. That's all I have for part 1 of the video this week. Be sure to watch part 2. Thanks for watching.